Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a horror movie review. We're going to be having a look at The Collection today. Now, The Collector is actually a sequel to the film Collector. So, in the original film, the Collector was the name of a serial killer who would go into someone's house, essentially, and put up various traps and things like that, kill all but one person, and the one person that they left alive, they would essentially collect and take back to his lair and do things that you wouldn't actually know in the first film. So the end of the first film basically saw a guy who you thought he was going to escape, you thought he'd defeated the Collector, but he gets scooped up at the last minute. And that's, to be quite honest, when I saw that film, I thought that was going to be the end of it. It's going to be one of those endings where it kind of, ends in a bummer. So this film actually, I was surprised, actually has the guy back again. That's really the only survivor. He manages to escape. So the first thing I would say about this film is, I think it's better than the original. First of all, it's got one of the most, well, if this guy was real, he'd be the worst serial killer I've ever seen. Basically, he kills a whole club worth of people. So, I mean, it really has to be seen to be believed. This thing. There's some kind of underground rave going in this club, and basically he's got this massive like rotor blades on the ceiling that he sort of comes down and they literally mow all of the club people bar one just to shreds. It's quite gory, and it's something. Well, if you've ever seen Brain Dead, it reminds me of that, to be quite honest with you. So it's very OTT, and you must think the amount of work that must have gone into that for one guy to actually put it in these like massive blades and stuff. I mean, how would that not have gone noticed? There you go. So you kind of have to suspend a little bit of disbelief for this film. So, if you're looking for a realistic portrait of a serial killer, this isn't going to be it. Its nearest comparison, I suppose, is the Saw films. Really, it's kind of a little bit like that in a lot of ways. So anyway, he kidnaps the last survivor, who happens to be the daughter of a rich businessman, and just coincidentally, the guy who ended in the last film manages to escape because he's just in a box that for some reason the Collector brings to this nightclub. So he manages to escape, and what happens is the girl's father basically brings up a team of mercenaries to essentially go and rescue his daughter, and they coerce the survivor of the last film into helping them. And what I suppose is quite original about this film, rather than in most horror films, especially slasher films, you'll get the bad guy, the slasher, going into people's homes and and killing them and all of that. So in this time, you've actually got the good guys going into the killer's home. So there's kind of a little bit of a role reversal, but it really comes down to the same thing. He's got all of these different traps in this house, and obviously the group of mercenaries, obviously a lot of which are going to be cannon fodder, get picked off one by one in sort of various horrific ways. What's interesting about this film is you get to see a little bit about what he's doing with all this collection of people, and basically he's just doing all sorts of weird experiments on them. A lot of them sort of end up becoming sort of mad and have these sort of like masks sort of stapled onto their face and essentially stuck in a dungeon, and they almost become sort of like deranged zombies almost. They're not undead, but they're just sort of like mad people in the cellar basically. So this group of mercenaries come in to sort of try and rescue the daughter, and as I say, get picked up one by one, and it's essentially the story. I know I'm not going to tell the ending of this film, so if you've not seen it, and you're interested in this sort of thing, go watch it. I would say it's got a more satisfying conclusion than the last film. I got to admit, I don't like it when they have the standard sort of like the bad guy lives at the end. That kind of bums me out, and it comes back at the last minute. It's kind of stereotypical, I think. So I like it when films actually have a proper ending, but you're always kind of waiting, for that to happen. So in that respect, I actually thought it was a little bit more. There was a little bit more thought about it involved. The actual Collector himself is a guy in a sort of like leather mask who for some reason has kind of reflective eyes. You never really get any idea of who he is. To me, I mean, there's actually quite a lot of combat, and the bad guy's firing a gun, and he's, you know, he has a bit of sort of melee combat with another guy who's obviously been military trained. So to me, I got the impression that this collector was maybe sort of an ex-military type. But he's, you know, there are some issues with it. Obviously, I mentioned, obviously, you do have to suspend disbelief. I mean, he's got all of this stuff. He's held out in a sort of abandoned hotel, which is massive, and he's got all of this stuff in there. You know, all this machinery and things like that. And you know, you've got to think, where's the money coming from? Obviously, there's got to be a power source. How do people not hear the screams and things like that? So there's, you know, there are some issues with regards to that. So maybe there are a few plot holes in it. But you don't go into a slasher movie expecting, you know, massive coherence, I would argue. So for what it is, you know, you kind of have to sort of give it the benefit of the doubt in regards to that. So if you kind of think about it in those terms, I would say it's, you know, an enjoyable flick if you're into that sort of thing. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? If you're into your slasher films, I'd recommend it because I think you'll get a kick out of it. Leave me a comment and I look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.